use both. So it's just going to be my experience. Everybody's is very specific. There are going to be parts that are relatable if you walk with it, and there are going to be some parts that are completely different. But my story is that I grew up in a town called Ipswich, which is in Suffolk in the south-east of England. It's about an hour north-east of London, maybe a bit more. Ipswich is quite a working class town, and people tend to stay there if they're from there. It's about 100,000, maybe less, but it feels a lot smaller than it is sometimes. So it first became clear that I was different when I was really young. I remember being about 4 or 5 on my first day of school, and I was wearing my new uniform, which was a checkered green and white blouse with a grey skirt or a grey pinafore tunic or something. And I remember getting to the playground with my mum on the first day, aged 4, and seeing all the boys running around playing football, wearing shorts and a tie and a collared shirt, and all the girls kind of sitting, playing more kind of chill games, hanging out together. And I remember feeling immediately really embarrassed because I just had this overwhelming feeling that I was in the wrong uniform. I looked at the boys and I was like, oh no, we were supposed to get that one, because I'm supposed to be playing football. And that's the first time I really remember feeling that kind of, distress about how I was presenting, or how I was made to present. And that feeling never really went away. My parents were pretty flexible, especially my dad, and let me wear whatever I wanted at home, which often was boys' clothes. But in primary school it was rough because it felt like I lived 2 very separate lives. I had really supportive parents. My dad was very actively supportive, and always advocated for me. So if I wanted to get my hair cut short, he took me to the barber after talking to some of my friends' dads about where they took their kids to get a short haircut. And he, made sure that I was wearing clothes that I felt comfortable in. Excuse me. But at school I had to wear a dress until I was 9, and I had short hair, so I would just get bullied by older kids, kind of taunted, called names, sometimes pushed, sometimes had my stuff stolen. Just mean stuff. I was lucky in that I never really got bullied by my peers ever. I was always quite popular in my age group. I feel like people got to know me, and that was that. I was different, but I was Izzy, I was really lucky that I had some really good friends, so it was a bit scary getting bullied by older kids, but it always felt alright because I had friends. Primary school got a lot better when I was in year 5, so what's that, 4th grade or something, when a new head teacher came. And on the morning of her first day, my dad marched into her office and said, "Hi, my name is Izzy's dad. It's really nice to meet you. I just came to let you know that my daughter will be coming into school wearing trousers tomorrow, and it's not up for debate." And she was honestly like, "Oh, yeah, okay, fine," because it surprisingly, wasn't a big deal. Who would have thought? So the last 2 years of primary school were really good. I was accepted by my peers, I was accepted by my family. I'd still get heckled on the street occasionally. But, and that is a lot for a kid. I think most children don't have to deal with that, but I felt like I had enough people behind me that you can kind of shrug those things off. My dad throughout that time was definitely my biggest advocate, in that he, if I wanted to, if I was having to wear a dress for like a family wedding or something, because you had to dress nice. Is that an ice cream van? Oh my god. I have not heard one of them in like 10 years, and suddenly I start filming a video and it starts playing. I was talking about my dad and like how he always made sure that I was expressing myself how I wanted to. Like if there was a wedding, and I had to wear a dress, my dad would find me like a suit that was like matching the dress. To be like, and he'd be like, she matches the color scheme, she matches the formality. She's really well dressed. She's just not dressed as a girl. She's just wearing a suit. And I always really appreciated that. Where things got tougher for me was starting high school. So when I would have been 11, in the UK you start high school at 11 and you're kind of thrown in with everybody up till 18, sometimes 16 depending if you go to a smaller school, but mine was big, so I went in with 18-year-olds. I was lucky that I had a lot of friends that came up with me, and I was really lucky too that I made some great friends in my year. So being ostracised by my peers, luckily, was not an experience I had to endure. I know a lot of people did who grew up gay, but I was lucky in that I always had friends. Sports definitely helped. I was always really into football and rugby, and I was pretty good at them, so I think that helped. But high school was rough because you're in there with much older kids. So aged 11, I would get bullied by older kids, older boys in particular, like 15, 16-year-olds, who, they'd find out I was a girl and, kind of harass me, follow me home sometimes, shout names and slurs across the playground and just try and intimidate me, really. And yeah, it sucks. I don't know. I think it's just I just generally felt unwelcome at school. I knew I had people in my corner, but ultimately not a lot of people ever really stood up for me. I always had to stand up for myself, which is a good thing to learn how to do, but I think it feels shitty to have to do that when you have people that could do the same, that are standing right next to you, who don't know what to do. But I don't fault those people. I think everybody did their best, and I had a really cool form tutor that I was my teacher for 5 years, that would always stand up for me. Like if she heard about anything, like people harassing me or older kids especially, like she always handled it in a way that didn't make me feel like a snitch, because I never really snitched. I told my friends and then they told a teacher one time, but other than that I never snitched. I just I don't know, I always believed in trying to handle it myself. And I think another really hard thing about high school is that using the bathroom was kind of a fucking nightmare, because I did look like a boy. I'll attach pictures here, but I'd just go and piss, and the girls in there, especially if they were older, didn't know me, they were trying, they'd yell at me, and I'd have to explain I was a girl, and sometimes they wouldn't believe me, and it was a whole thing, and pretty much every time I needed to use the toilet, which sucked. There were a couple times rest in peace. But yeah, that was high school. I did have a good time too. Like, I was involved in sports and music, but yeah, there were a couple of people who made it difficult at times, made it really lonely. I think I just felt very different to everybody, and I felt like I knew I was gay, but I didn't really realise that me being a sort of tomboy was a part of that, and I didn't want to like add to the reasons I was different. Like, I even had some friends be like, Izzy, please can you just try and fit in, like, you're doing this to yourself. And that's hard because I've never been able to not be myself. I feel very lucky for that now, but I always felt so stuck as a youngster because I didn't know how to pretend to be anybody but exactly who I was. And I think not everybody could really understand that, because I didn't really understand it, to be honest. I don't know why I had to be so stubborn. I'm glad I was, but I don't know why I felt so against my entire being to just fit in and present how everybody else was presenting. So the first time I told someone I was gay, I came out to my parents when I was 13. And this was at a time where I'd started to develop crushes on people. It'd been about a year where I was starting to have these really intense crushes where I couldn't think about anything else. I proper fancied this one girl who was in my year, and we were becoming quite good friends, and I fancied the pants off her. I thought I was in love with her. I did end up becoming really good friends with her. So I did love her at one point, but I was not in love with her. But I felt like I was just going to burst. I was so in love with her, as much as a 13-year-old can be. I just couldn't keep it in my little body. It was so consuming that I had to tell someone. So I told my mum, and she wasn't shocked, but she did cry. I think just any reminder that my life was going to be harder than other people's was hard for her. I think at that time there was no way of really knowing how kind or unkind the world was going to be to me and other queer people. I mean, it wasn't fully safe to come out to a lot of people in town. We did keep it quite under wraps. Just because, I don't know, I mean, if you're getting heckled at age 10 just for having a short haircut by randos, random adults, I don't know, you can assume what they would do if they knew you were gay. At that time, it's completely different now. I've been back. It's very different. But, my mum cried, but my dad was really supportive. He just came up to my room that night he got home and was like, "Hey, Mum says you're gay." And I was like, "Did she? Cool. Well, yeah, I am." And he's like, "Oh yeah, cool, nice. Thought so. Let me see if I can find you some resources for you to read." So coming out was actually pretty easy. My parents, I'm very lucky. They're both therapists, even though they grew up very religious. Both of them, both their dads were priests, vicars. So they grew up very religious and around a lot of anti-gay hate. But they never subscribed to it. They've always been really affirming and great. I've been actually really lucky in my whole family. My aunts and uncles, I never really came out to them just because it was so obvious that I was gay from early childhood. I just showed up one day with my girlfriend and they were like, "Hi, nice to meet you." I don't know, no one bad and everyone knew. I've been really lucky with family. Everyone in my family is basically either a therapist, a psychologist, or a teacher, so, I'd say my experience growing up, being gay, knowing I was gay, or at least queer to some extent, it was quite lonely. I felt like I was carrying this huge secret, or this huge kind of weight that no one could help me with, that no one knew what to do with. I don't think anyone really knew what to do with me. I was just telling my girlfriend the other day when I would play house with other girls, and they're always coming up with dramatic scenarios. They would say, Izzy, you can, why don't you go off the wall? I would always get sent off the wall in like games at house. I was happy, but no one knew what to do with me. I was never going to be the mum, was I? With a buzz cut. But yeah, it was lonely. I think it made me quite internal, even though I'm quite extroverted. Well, I'm not extroverted, but I'm friendly, quite outgoing. But it made me very internal. I had just a very rich inner life, and it kind of made me quite cut off from other children a lot of the time. But that taught me to be my own best friend and first advocate. Sadly, it's likely that people aren't going to say anything in your defense sometimes. When you need them, which sucks. But that has definitely shaped the way I move through the world, because I always make sure to be that person every time I can. It's almost like a compulsion. Like, I have to be the one to stand up and say something. I have to be the one to invite somebody in, or condemn something unfair. To stand up for people who need you to stand up for them. It encompasses every aspect of my life. I think that a lot of queer people can probably relate to this. How our experiences growing up and just looking to see if someone will come to our aid or our defense, and seeing that there's no one there. I think it just instills in you that you have to be that person. You have to stand up for people. You have to stand up for what's right, and what's kind and empathetic, and you have to be brave. And I think growing up queer really forces you to be brave and learn what being brave is, which is being really scared sometimes. And standing up for yourself anyway. But I think looking back, I'm very grateful that I learned how to be so true to myself. I think that was my default to an extent, just because I had no ability to sort of cosplay as anything else other than me. But it's still a practice to listen to yourself, and to. I mean, it's the reason I present as more femme now is because I actually enjoy it. I realised that even though I didn't want to be restricted by my sex, in my gender presentation, it didn't mean that I rejected it altogether. I like being a woman. Like, I like exploring femininity sometimes, as well as more masculine traits. I think that gender is expansive, and I don't ever want to sort of limit myself by societal expectation, and I think that I wouldn't have got there had I not been so fucking weird and queer as a kid. So I am grateful for that. I think it just taught me how to give people grace and be kind to people. So yeah, that's my experience. It's gonna be completely different to a lot of people's, but that's mine. I'm sure that if you're queer, there's parts that you'll be able to relate to, or if you're just a human, there's probably parts that you'll be able to relate to. But yeah, I feel very lucky for my experience, and I feel very lucky for the way I am. I wouldn't change myself for anything at all. yeah, I can say that I genuinely really like myself, really love myself, and love the life I have. I'm in a very happy relationship with my girlfriend. We have a wonderful life together, and my life is full and rich and full of joy, and I don't feel like I'm at any disadvantage for being gay. I think that as long as my rights are protected and my physical safety is not in question, I really don't give a fuck about anything else. You know, people can say what the hell they want. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next